Good evening, everyone. I am Priya here, one of the organizing co-chairs, and I welcome you all to the second day of week 2 of IEEE Symposium on Data Analytics and Internet of Things. IEEE Victorian section presents the symposium in collaboration with Computational Intelligence Society, IoT Community, and University of Melbourne Student Branch. Just to quickly run you through the schedule of the symposium, it's going to run for 6 more weeks. Until 19th of November, with events happening only on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, either as afternoon or evening sessions. Since you're registered for this week, you will be on our e-meeting list and we'll receive emails about the event scheduled for all of the following weeks. You can also follow our website and social media pages for more updates. Before we delve into today's event, I would like to share that IEEE Day is celebrated on first Tuesday of October, which was yesterday. So this is IEEE Week for all the IEEE volunteers and enthusiasts out there. The prominence of IEEE Day was to commemorate the gathering of engineers worldwide and IEEE members for the first time in history in 1884 to share their technical ideas. These global celebrations demonstrate how thousands of IEEE members in local communities are joining together to expand collaborations on technology, ideas, and humanitarian projects to build a brighter future for everyone. Now engraved in its essence, IEEE Day's theme is leveraging technology for a better tomorrow. While the world benefits from what's new, IEEE focuses on what's next. Getting back to our today's event, today is the second tutorial talk of week 2 on Internet of Things, and the topic is security and networking in IoT systems. The talk will be for around 45 minutes with last 15 minutes dedicated for question and answer session. Please use the question answer tab at the bottom of the window to post your questions. So we have Dr. Champ Mendis as the speaker for this event. Champ is the chief data scientist of AAA Super. He is also working as an adjunct lecturer at Charles Sturt University and as assistant secretary at IEEE Victorian section. He has more than 10 years of experience working in IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and information security and computer information systems. Thank you, Champ, for joining us today. The floor is all yours.
Thanks, Priya. Thanks for the nice introduction, and happy IEEE Day, which was yesterday. So we celebrated with our general meeting for the month. So just give you a bit of a background where I come from and where I'm heading. So
sorry, Sam, sorry to interrupt. I think can you make yourself more audible? Can you just put your mic a little bit closer or something, because everyone might not be able to hear you. Sorry about that.
no problem. Can you hear?
Yes, it is better now. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So from the industrial side of my career, I'm actually handling the data for AAA Super, which is a self-managed super company. And what we are doing is we actually providing administrative services for advisors. So it's a bit of a lake of data anywhere around, and everybody be curious why I'm being in a accounting industry and why I'm talking about IoT. So instead of IoT being HVAC, or generally like ventilation and air conditioning systems, it has come to the premises of accounting as well. Okay. And also from the academic side of my career, I'm also helping PhD student at Charles Sturt University, Wagga Wagga. So we used to have remote monitoring and supervision. Unfortunately, no IoT involved in that case. Instead of, and also I'm the assistant secretary of IEEE Victoria Tasmania section. And also I'm really grateful for the IoT community chaired by Priya. And I always invite you all to join as well, so and become our colleague of us, sharing the best of IoT with each other. Okay, just introducing the agenda. So what I'm telling you what IoTs, maybe everyone knows what IoT would be, uh, but there could be a definition, and just exploring the places, what the IoT plays in our lives, and also what's a networking is of IoT, and also uh, coming with the networking arena, you can also have the possibility of security breaches and compromises. So I was just explaining some sort of instances of attacks happen in the history, and the types of attack and what kind of remedial action we will be able to take to overcome any sort of things in the future. Just showing what is IoT. Well, in many of these, there are basically involving sensors in remotely. These are actually where the fields I was involved in. Basically, starting with the top left corner, which is showing some of the uh, deployments in Sri Lanka. So, which is one is the air quality monitoring. And then the other one is the frequency monitoring system, which is deployed. And just to trace any fraudulent use of spectrum. So we had so many of these, and the one on the right side, which shows the colored map, which is showing the Monash freeway traffic. So that is possibly used fuzzy logic to actually derive the maps from Monash freeway. Which led to the implementation of ramping traffic lights to reduce the traffic. So, and good thing is, and this we used 32 sensors placed in so many different locations from Jackson Road to Turak Road in Monash Freeway. And the next one, on the third one, on the one on the bottom of left side, is a landside hazard map. So this shows the data collected from different sources, basically about 6 layers of different sources of data, which is complement with each other and producing a landside hazard zonation map using a fuzzy logic again. So the next one, on the right bottom shows the Culway, which is introduced by the RRB, Transport Research Board, which is implemented in mostly Queensland area, which has more heavy vehicle traffic. And what we intended to do was using to replace the Culway systems using piezoelectric cables. So, and the one in the middle, which is called the smart board system, which is done basically under the guidance of Professor Halgaunge. I hope I saw his wife here. So yeah, so what all of these 5 of these pictures, what they show is actually kind of our sensors. They self-contained sensors, or basically rooms of sensors, or the stations itself. But what is different? Okay, yeah, this is the other kind of application which is using placement of sensors in the chemical environment. A chemical in that case, it could be the general environment what we live, or maybe could be a hazardous environment which has sensors. So they each could be smart sensors. They may be talking to each other. Yeah, and at this point of time, there was a issue came up, not an issue, actually a suggestion came up last night in our general meeting. One colleague of mine actually suggested that we should have sensors as another chapter, or maybe another group or community. But what is happening now itself, what the pictures I showed before, once the internet is coming and integrated with their normal sensors, they all become Internet of Things. Instead of just smart sensors, what we saw in the previous slides, they all become Internet of Things. What is the difference of Internet of Things? Okay, so Internet of Things include everyday devices that connect to the internet and send and receive data. So this could contain coffee machines, brain implants, HVAC or heating, ventilation and air conditioning systems, and smartwatches, and also that may includes baby monitors, whichever having internet protocol IP address. Previously it was IP4 version 4, and due to the scarce availability of IP4 addresses, now internet world is moving towards IP version 6 addresses. As you may have seen, there are kind of problem issues coming up when we are configuring our networking apparatus or devices. We may sometimes have to use the version 4 address. Sometimes we might have to also indicate the version 6 address. So yes, so IoT has introduced to the world, or maybe the term stitched in 1999, called the Internet of Things. And so by 2020, where the year we were living, it could be 20.4 billion devices connected to the Internet of Things. So it could be your home, your office, or maybe industry, or maybe the roads. For instance, actually, there could be instances happening even with theft on the road. And there could be instance where who is responsible to monitoring the roads? It could be the own individual premises or houses, or could be the councils. So that there should be someone to govern the IoT devices. So, and there could be, instead of just having individual IoTs lying alone itself, as I showed before, where we actually connected sensors. So the next possible trend in this IoT world would be coming up is the IoT networks. So this is a simple network architecture just shown. Possibly this is what I'm using at home. So with the Vimo switch. So Vimo switch is connected to the home network, and it is configured by the normal phone. And so this is kind of protocol happening. So multiclass. So I'm not going to explain in detail each of these. So this is the protocol which is explained in this paper as well. So they analyze the security of this configuration. So yeah, the next one. So there are various types of architectures we have. Suppose the one in the left side shows a possible use of IoTs in a smart city. What is a smart city? That will have public toilets, airports, crowded places, the transport, hospitals and offices, and supermarkets. So each of these constitutes smart cities. So, and the one in the middle shows actually the infrastructure provided by a cloud provider, Oracle. So, so the Internet of Things moving from the networking sphere towards cloud sphere now. So which is cloud is something in simple sense is your data stored in somebody else's location or premises, but you are using their services as in various forms like platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, or software as a service. So there are various ways of interconnecting in various different methods. So it's, a few things could be spacecrafts using IoT, automobiles, coffee machines, medical devices, and air conditioners, and so on and so forth. So yes, now in one of the papers or the instances they have analyzed, there's a new device connected to Parkinson patients. It's the brain implant. It will be having maybe IP address itself. So these people actually they have analyzed the signals coming towards the stimulation device implanted in the brain. And so these stimulations actually make the Parkinson patients to get rid of shattering or maybe kind of shaking kind of uh, uh, symptoms. And also it makes the Parkinson patients to actually have a normal way of life instead of having shaking and kind of other side bad effects of Parkinson. So what's happening is this device is sending a signals to the brain and just controlling the shaking nature of this Parkinson patient. So what happens if this IoT device is compromised and hacker get into the control? And this device, which is passing the stimulant signals to the brain, also makes the person emotionally different, and you can take control of the person and take the control of the temperaments or the emotions of the patient. So, and since it's connected to the motor functions and also auto impulse control, and and it really can take the whole control of a normal, not a normal, kind of a uh, fairly disabled or a weak human being actually having Parkinson's disease. So as I mentioned, so they can actually alter the emotional pattern of the person. So that's the first part of the IoT compromising event. And the next event is the hijack. And this is actually not really had happened, fortunately. But Martin Horn, a researcher at security firm Avast, you might be all heard of Avast, a firm which is providing free security endpoints software. And so he reverse engineered the smart coffee maker, and he discovered kind of crucial weaknesses in the connection of deployment of IoT sensors or devices. So what will happen is a person who is the hijacker will be able to hijack the coffee maker machine and even demand ransom. So that had happened in our office, demanding ransomware. You may have heard the ransomware attacks happened recently, and which is happening in our currently as well, if we not careful. So so this is another instance of IoT security compromise. What else? Yeah. So the major other event, which is could affect the smart city itself, is in one instance residents in two apartments building in Lappeenranta city in eastern Finland actually underwent a freezing nature because the hijackers took control of the environment control systems. So the heating devices in their building stopped working. So it is basically a denial of service attack. So they took control of the building. Most of the people, they have a different psychology, which came, several psychologists actually raised their concern in one of the conferences in security, cyber security as well, conferences where they will have a different mentality or mental nature of, and they would say, gratify themselves actually giving some sort of by hijacking something and giving some sort of kind of yeah sort of yeah, action in based on actually harassing someone. So that is very demeanor or very low kind of gratification you get by hacking a person. So this is one instance. So this is will come to our houses, because most of the houses, including actually which is mostly commonly used in most of the houses now, uh, whereas you will have the IoT things connected to our own heating system, and which will have the weather control patterns. And one kind of vendor is the Echo B, which provides weather control heating systems. So it is interconnected to the internet. And the good thing is, if you forget to switch off your heating or air conditioning or the ventilating, you have the option of actually controlling everything in your house, HVAC systems remotely. But also, we will come across in our later. Also, that gives us the opportunity for hackers to get into your system. So the Internet of Things is it explaining different layers. I'm not going to in detail architecture, because one of our colleagues explain the architecture of IoT. So you have the internet cloud layers, yeah, link layers, router, smart hub layer, and session communication layers, and internet and cloud layer. So that is the most the latest addition to Internet of Things. So IoT brings a lot of great opportunity to people. So there are quite a number of significant numbers of devices available in the market. But are we could we rely on the security of these contraptions or the devices? So, and as we will come later, so it could be security can in the security cyber security discipline. Mostly we see is that most of the security lies in our own hands. So, and it could be the general layman, it could be a general engineer who will be handling the security, or could be just be an accountant who may not know much about hardware nature of the things. So whichever it is, it touches everyone's lives. So or duty. So, and the good thing is, the government recently have uh, published a set of code of practice for consumer for IoT security. I will come that later. Yeah. So what is what we found? What do we watch for? Are they insecure components? Have and if you are a hardware engineer or maybe a network engineer, you will see that you might open up unnecessary ports to these systems. Also, insufficient lock-in mechanisms. In case of a IoT attack, security attack, how are we going to assess what sort of security have or sort of sensitive data compromise? So that is the most important thing. So you need to have the logging features of your devices. And also inadequate privacy protection and encryption. And also the patch management, which is mostly generally lies with the networking engineers or hardware engineers, who are actually regularly have to update the patching and get the necessary updates to your systems regularly. Maybe Microsoft releases generally releases updates every week, mostly on Tuesdays, and so on and so forth. So most of these systems, they, and even iOS, they have the releases 13, 14, and so on. So yeah, so it is, you have to look for updates, and also hard-coded passwords. Yeah, so those are the issues basically found by Trend Micro. So I had the I recently met the data scientists from Trend Micro. So they actually have a very good hold of security of IoTs. So yeah, this is the suggestions or observations are from Trend Micro. So in other so these are type of attacks that would happen as well. We saw the sort of deficiencies of security in our previous slides. So what kind of attacks would happen if we analyze it in a network engineer's point of view? So the device not software failure, and also node tampering attack, eavesdropping attack. So they might even put unnecessary data into our systems while on the way if it's not or the data is not encrypted in transit. Also malicious code injections. So most of these IoT devices have web interfaces, and if it's since we say that it's Internet of Things, unlike the general sensors we have, IoT devices are accessible by remotely by outsiders who are users of who are part of general internet. So we came to know that we have the black internet or dark web, which recently had driving licenses, details of driving licenses, and so on and so forth. And they are the people actually currently in internet world. So and also unauthorized access unless you so and also social engineering attacks. So even in one recent instances that when you have a phishing email coming up as a normal email, one of our colleagues actually opened up, gave the Microsoft username and password. So and soon as it got one person in Denmark, one person in South Africa actually got hold of a network host in Denmark and tried to get access to all the emails in our office. So those are the kind of unauthorized access would happen. But even then, the sole responsibility could be lying on yours as well, as a person or a general user. And also device hardware exploitation. So could be insecure hardware interfaces. So there could be instances where there could be even viruses come in USB. So unlike the previously where we had the hard-coded or fully prepared compact disc or DVDs, and what is coming to play is the pen drives or the USB devices. So they are all could be manipulated or handled instantly, unlike compact disc, which can't be hacked or you can't change, or it's not highly write protected. But the USB devices are mostly writable nature. So, and also, as I mentioned, malicious code encryption. So previously, so it's most of the systems, Internet of Things, as I mentioned, like home weather control heating system, we'll be using API calls to one of the weather forecasting sites to extract weather data. So while to the APIs, unless the data coming from the weather stations are encrypted in transit, it could be a possibility that it could be the data or the transmission could be compromised. So what are the nature of things? What sort of things we should do to to remedy these kind of security attacks. First thing is, most of these devices comes with default passwords. If you see your routers, maybe your heating system, or maybe baby monitors, comes with default password. And generally, it's there are so the security vendors or experts had devised that have observed that there could be very limited number of passwords available in the world. So it's not a big issue for a person to actually make use of these default passwords. And it could be maybe a fraction of a second would be enough actually to get into your system while compromise communication media and alter your network or alter your device settings. And the next one is vulnerability disclosure policy. So as you see in the security world, uh, what is vulnerability disclosure is most of these vendors, uh, if we see, if you're subscribing to one of the endpoint software, virus protection software, you will come to know that it is updated almost every day. So there may be different malware or virus attacks or ransomware attacks, and all of these attacks are different. And what is basically different in this cybersecurity world is that unlike any other nature of other disciplines, the cybersecurity nature is always changing. And what is mostly inside, what is mostly rest, it may be even to data scientists or maybe cybersecurity experts, has to actually should have a policy or maybe to ascertain kind of predictive analytics would, or maybe predictive nature of attacks that would happen. So, and only you actually might win all the days, but the cybersecurity person would need only one day to succeed. So, and that what happen once you actually predict kind of patterns, that what is done by most of these endpoint software experts. So they are always analyzing kind of predictive nature of attacks that would happen, or maybe could be similar patterns that we observe analogous to the same pattern of malware that would happen. So what is happening is all these vendors who had provided IoT devices need to have an open window for accept any security compromising happening in the world. And the person the users, the victims should have the opportunity to actually raise their issues with the vendors, and vendors need to take action. And so take into example one of these security attacks in our office itself took only maybe not more than maybe 5 minutes. So it generally says the 7 minutes you can actually damage millions of assets of data. So actually the vendors, they need to have a better opening, windows open, or customer relation windows open for them to accept any security compromises that's happening and take remedial action in a quick action, instantly, without making a delay. So as I mentioned, not to even maybe 5 minutes, maybe at least soon if we can actually protect like ports and things like that, security measures in place. And by the time the endpoint, the devices need to mend their loopholes and keep them the window open. And the third advice given in the code of practice for consumer of IT security, IoT securities, keep software updated. So as we see, even the Intel had a kind of security loophole in one of their hardware firmware, and in other instances, Fix had a issue in few weeks back, which the Prime Minister also mentioned in his speech. So there are some security compromises happening in the software. So it is essential that you need to keep the software updated and including the firmware. And the good thing is you have all the firmware happening automatically. So that is essential that you maintain that it's updated. And the fourth point, security store credential and security of sensitive data. So those credentials mostly hard coded, and we generally in the kind of security perspective, we never send the passwords via emails. So make sure if you are sending the passwords, it not to be stored in any other places or hard coded. So yeah, the credentials. Yeah, so that's most important. And the fifth is communicate securely. So you have to make use of have your posts well guarded. You might be using port 80 mostly. So it's now the mostly secure socket layer is used in web type of communications. So using the 443 port. So make sure that you have the end-to-end encrypted communication happening, even from your IoT device towards the website. So, and more unfortunately, in some of the IoT devices in what we get, mostly provides port 80 or non-secure based web interfaces. But you have to make sure that those devices are actually inside your zone of security zone. And yeah, so maybe in case of an internal network, so you have to make sure that you are not connecting the internet while you are actually using the non-secure web interfaces to IoT systems. And the sixth one is minimize exposed attack surfaces. So you have to make sure that yeah, and there could be make sure that the more ports are connected to your devices, which is using access to most of these configurations point in your IoT device. You have to make sure that you use only minimal, which is connected to the external world, and so on and so forth. So yeah. And also the software integrity. And you have to make sure that good thing is most of the iOS, Windows, and Androids, you have patching and updating happening. So have the integrity. There could be maybe some bugs which lies inside the code of the software we have. So there could be opening of loopholes in the software, which will give actually possible access to the hackers. Number 8 is personal data is protected. So personal data. So the thing is we generally have to make sure that where your data is stored. So analyzing whether secure or safety of your data, which is sensitive data. So actually the Privacy Protection Authority in the government, actually they have actually defined what sort of sensitive data you have. So in case of sensitive data like date of birth, maybe different preferences, health issues, or name or the address or your mobile phone number and so on and so forth, which is could be enough to actually per person, per hacker to get in and make use of them to actually access your accounts. That has happened similar to, so we can actually access in one of the instances, the companies they had the air conditioning or HVAC system was hacked, and it was connected to the internal server of your machine. So most of these servers, uh, what is happening in our offices, we generally have this Active Directory connected to the IoT devices. So soon as the hackers got into the IoT device, and they can actually access if we have a loopholes in the security or the software, uh, they could access the sensitive data stored in the servers. So we have to make sure that uh, the sensitive data are well protected and has to be fairly quite arm's distance from normal sensitive data. So we should have only from external like data like weather controlling information coming from external uh, weather forecasting uh, parties, but you have to make sure that your sensitive data will not be connected to your IoT device unless it is properly secured. So number 9, yeah, as we saw that we had the incidents like in Finland, or maybe the Parkinson brain implants, uh, and there has to be a certain mechanism. And in case we saw that there was 2 apartments in Finland which has got affected, uh, so there could be resilient to the outages. So in case of a heating failure, there should be a way of other backup means to get your device working, your way of use happen. Suppose that, yeah, so in case of hacker get into a heating system, uh, there should be a certain mechanism to detect the outage and to get the remedial quick action. In some of the networks in place in the research and development stage, resilient or self-sustainable networks, self-healing networks. So most of these Microsoft platforms, now they have the healing mechanisms. Soon as they recover some sort of outages, they have the ability to heal by themselves. So that's the good thing you need to have in your IoT devices. And the 10th is to monitor your telemetry data regularly. So that is what is happening in our offices. Uh, we always have to monitor the data of maybe the usage of networks, usage of IoT systems, and so on and so forth. Like your own bank account, you will have to verify your, have to monitor your uh, IoT telemetry data, which is exchanged between different sources, like even whether forecasting stations or maybe vendors themselves. Uh, there are some actually webcams which are actually using kind of public cloud-based hosting sites to actually broadcast or maybe share uh, webcam videos, clips, or instant video streaming. So you have to make sure that make use of that while keeping in transit as well as uh, in stationary data encryption in place. And also the other option they recommend is to delete personal data. And in case in certain instance of IoT attack, and you will have actually maybe in some instances in case of Office 365 attack, we actually had around maybe few minutes, maybe 10 minutes to take remedial action or to protect uh, or the further hacking. So that time, the users should have the ability to actually delete their own sensitive data, because you will not have the access to kind of vendor or expert at a particular time, maybe 12 o'clock, 12 a.m. in the night, somebody's hacking your heating system and then get into your uh, internet router and get into your PCs and getting your data. So similar to that, uh, whatever the uh, network configurations which is stored in the IoT device or whichever it is, the user should be having the access to delete the personal data immediately and get rid of the connections or whichever uh, data sharing in between. And the 12th is, and make installation and maintenance of devices easy. Uh, so instead of network engineer coming into your premises every time to install your IoT device, most of these IoT devices are plug and play, which is good. You know that instead of it is fully connected to your network, if it's heavily, maybe like your personal alarming system, which is heavily connected to your network, which is, it might use a knowledge of a hardware technician or engineer for replacement or do any modifications. Whereas if you have a plug and play device, as a user, you should be able to quickly remove the plug and play device from your system and get immediate action and prevent any further attacks. And also the last one is validate input data. So yeah, make sure that once you, what the data you entered, validate are right. So in case, suppose that is a brain implant, uh, uh, what the researchers they have done is actually they have analyzed the patterns of input data. So, and from that they were able to uh, ascertain that some of these data, the input streams of data would have been hampered, and it is not the normal data streams that we will get into your system. So you have to make sure that whatever data input your IoT devices has to be validated. So yeah, these are the things we discuss, and these are the good URL references you have. So this talk is from organized by IoT and the IoT community. So, and the first instance is iot.ieee.org, so which is the quick site accessible for IEEE and maybe for even public, and some special resources for members. And also there are so these are the several of these institutes which are actually interested in IoT standardization, which is ITU, International Telecommunication Union, IEC, IEEE. So IEEE is then the standard body. And also the number 3, which is the Home Affairs. So the discussion paper, which is the code of practice, is available. And also Trend Micro site has a lot of nice things on Internet of Things, which I've shown here. And there are kind of hacking instances of IoT devices is listed in the 5th URL, which I mentioned here. And the 6th one, which is the IoT for business. So yeah, so these are the references I used for these slides. If you have any questions, thanks.
Thank you, Champ, for the great talk. It was very informative, and I'm sure everyone found it insightful too. Now we open the floor to questions. Do we have any questions from the attendees?
Please make this an open forum, because security is been infant stage most of the time. So you might be having better recommendations and can share new things with yours. Yeah. So you can have it in the question and answers.
You can either post your questions in the question and answer box, or you can raise your hand and I will allow you to talk if you would like to talk.
Um, Thanks, Cham and Priya. Very good talk. And just one question from Cham. Regarding IoT security, what is the most important things these days, and what is the important challenge in um, uh, developing this technology from the, so the most important one, for example, is it the data privacy, security, or something very important thing these days?
That's correct, Satar. Yeah. Uh, Most of the things, as you see, so unlike the sensors, we had isolated sensors. IoT is Internet of Things, which are connected to the internet, and internet is an open world. So you have the dark web. So you have to make sure that soon as somewhat compromised and a hacker got into your system, maybe a hacker, as I mentioned, the hacker from South Africa might be using resources in Denmark and would try to access our system, which is via IoT device, or maybe secure software loopholes in IoT device. So you have to make sure that, yes, correct. So you have to make sure that, as mentioned, as a code of practice, uh, privacy of data. You have to make sure that uh, even if you are connected to your data, you should have the ability to disconnect your uh, sensitive data out of your Internet of Things. And in case it happens and there is no option, you need to connect your data like kind of Active Directory servers. So in that case, you should make sure that data is encrypted and it's in a proper place. And also the users should have the ability to actually delete your data instantly without having further compromising of your data. Hope it answered your question.
Thank you so much, Cham. Very good.
Thank you, Champ. We have another question. So there are two parts to the question. The first part is every device which connects to internet IoT? And could you comment on software integrity and how to ensure it for IoT?
That's right. So good thing is one of these cyber or maybe security forums, what they discuss is what we have the develop ops. Uh, so there's even the software engineers, the security area, what we have is in, from the start of the developing software to for IoT itself, which is could be embedded systems or software engineering, you will have to maintain the security nature of software. So that's a good thing. So everybody is in alert these days. They have, when they are developing software, they have even the DevOps, we have security integrated. The one question I had was from the Trend Micro was, when actually in developing security itself, do we have the ability to even use security engines, endpoint security engines? We might having API connection. So we can suppose that somebody is uploading some data from a site, maybe phishing attack or yeah, eavesdropping. So when we are developing the software, you have to make sure that the software is having integrity. In generally, in kind of practice what we have, we generally use make use of third-party providers, security providers, to analyze our security of our software. Because when you, as a software engineer, when you're doing embedded software engineering or security, uh, software compiling software, you might have a blind eye to some of your shortcomings. You might not see the shortcomings in your software. There may be loopholes. So the third party might be able to actually test it and get you better tested, and for the software integrity, like even penetrative testing and things and so on. So, but even then, hackers are very clever. So as I mentioned, security, nature of security, cyber security discipline is always evolving. So what is good point of a data scientist, or maybe who is having even controlling security, we might need to actually see the evolving nature of the world in cyber attacks, and see and have an idea, predictive analytics or predictive way of thinking, and make our software integrity secured or integrity verified. So yeah, hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Champ. Following up from the previous question on software integrity, do you think insufficient testing and updating are currently causing the threat to security? This is the next question.
Well, yes. Thing is, yeah, if you take the internet world, suppose that your development team might have only 10 people, but you have to make sure that once you open up your software to internet, which is internet of things as we define, there may be billions or millions of people. It could be the whole community of attackers in the world, could be millions of attackers in the world. So to 10 people will have to actually compete with maybe millions of hackers. So 10 minds have to compete with millions of minds, cunning minds who have the main intention to hack your system and make your painful, make a painful instance even for you. So unfortunately, so the 10 people cannot actually tell you what will happen. Can't compete with, in reality, you can't compete with the 10 million of hackers. The same thing will happen even yeah. So Internet of Things, your phone is becoming Internet of Things, even COVID tracing applications. So you will see it could be actually designed maybe by hundreds of developers, but the COVID app is open for maybe 8 million of people, and it might contain at least maybe 100,000 of hackers who might want to actually derail this way of COVID monitoring. So so that's the main thing. So best thing is, I think in one of the COVID forums we had, tracing apps is mostly having some sort of open source, opening your some software as open source. So once you open your software as open source, the good thing is that even you are having more developers involved in your development instead of just yourself. But you might, as a business secret, you can return some of the development secrets, but some part of yours, as even Microsoft does, can open up for open source. So open source sometimes could be more steel cage security versus your security actually designed by hundreds of software engineers. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Champ. We're running short of time, but then we'll just make this as the last question. Is cloud also one of the targets to attack? If yes, how could we protect it from the attack?
Great. Yeah. As I mentioned, yeah, the cloud is the most recent layer added to your IoT. So there are various, and as a cloud, having your connecting to your cloud, one thing is you could have a good uh, service contract with the cloud provider, and the other option is that you have your own cloud protection. And Trend Micro, they also they have a sort of cloud security uh, system endpoint software now they have. So once you connect it to your cloud, you have a particular protection. So one thing is from your end, you can do you can protect what you put your cloud, and the other end, if you are using cloud space, you have to make sure to read your conditions in the contract properly, and that in case of an attack, you have to make use of that contract clauses to defend your place. Yeah, hope that answered. Yeah.
Thank you, Champ. I think, yes, I think your answers were great. And I think everyone is satisfied with the answers. So we wind up today's session. So thank you everyone for attending the second week's talk of the symposium. And a big thanks to Champ for taking out time to share his knowledge on IoT. For tomorrow, we have Dr. Nandakishore Desai giving the workshop session on data analytics at 5 p.m. Please ensure you have Jupyter Notebook installed in your desktops or laptops, so to save time during the workshop. If you're unsure where to download it from, we will be sending the necessary links to you tomorrow before the event. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and in the upcoming events of the symposium. Take care and stay safe.